As we enter 2026, I want to share 3 financial habits that will really help noticeably move the needle with your finances and help you feel more in control of your money and calmer and more confident. One of the most powerful habits that you can adopt is instead of focusing on setting goals for your money, create workflows for your money. It's really helpful. Goals can end up being kind of abstract and hard to figure out exactly how to take action on them, versus if you focus on workflows for your money, you will then implement systems, put those in place, and it's going to make your money feel a lot lighter and just kind of take the weight off your shoulders if you're feeling really burdened about money. So an example of this might be, your goal might be get out of debt, which is fantastic. It's on my list of things to do as well. Instead of just having a general goal of saying, I'm going to get out of debt in 2026, then maybe instead say, I'm going to set up a workflow so that I tackle this credit card that I've identified is the one I need to pay off first. And I'm going to choose between the snowball method and the avalanche method of debt payoff, which I will link to my video on both of those on screen and in the description if you haven't heard about those before. And so then you create then a workflow for paying off that debt. So then you decide, are you going to go after the credit card with the highest interest rate, for example, or are you just going to go for the one with the lowest balance, like whichever one you want to do, but just focus on however you choose to focus on the card you're paying off, for example. And then just come up with a workflow of saying, I'm going to pay $50 a month or $100 a month, 200, whatever you have in mind and what's practical for your budget, towards this card until it's paid off. And in the meantime, I'm going to do my absolute best to not put too much more on it, so I'm not constantly adding to the balance while my system is in place to get it paid off. And so setting up those workflows is great because it basically lands you in the same place as having a goal, except a goal, because it's so abstract, it doesn't break it down into steps. And so you're very unlikely, most of us at least are very unlikely, to take action on just generic goals, such as I want to make money this year, or I want to become rich, or I want to get out of debt, or, if it's a health thing, I want to lose weight, or I want to get more fit. It's super easy to end up in the abstract versus having something concrete that is a workflow that you can actually take action on each and every day, every week, every month throughout 2026. So really focus on your money workflows more than goals. Goals are great, but really focus on those money workflows first. The second habit that can really move the needle this year for you with your wealth building journey is to assign every dollar a job before it even comes into your accounts. So if you have a job in particular where you're salaried and with relative confidence how much you're going to be making this year, you can kind of map out your entire year's worth of expenditures based on what your annual income will be, right? So most of us don't do this. Most of us look more at like a weekly to monthly basis. But if you love planning like I do, why not just look at it at a whole year and then just focus on, or break it down and just do a month at a time if that's easier, but really focus on, I know I have this much money coming in. I know I have these other expenses that I'm probably going to want. Like I'll probably want to live somewhere. I'll probably want to eat. I'll probably need to go to the doctor. The dog will probably want food. All these things that we kind of can sort of predict what we're going to need in the coming month or the coming year. And just really assign every dollar a job, because what this does is it really puts your money to work in a way that's very intentional and very mindful, rather than just kind of winging it and like having things just like hit you as they come. And I mean, sometimes this happens and we get hit with big expenses that are just sort of out of the blue. But in general, we can kind of predict most of what we're going to be spending on over the course of the year, and even roughly how much it will cost, because you can kind of budget inflation in. You can kind of look back at your expenses from the previous year and figure out roughly how much you spent last year. Probably will be roughly how much you'll spend this year, give or take what's going on with inflation and cost of living adjustments and so forth. But this can be a really helpful thing to do. Now, you can't really do this without having a budget. So if you want some help with budgeting, I will link to my budget video and my whole budget playlist here on screen in the description so that you can watch those. Because budgeting basically is assigning every dollar a job, and then that way you can say with confidence, that you've got the money coming in from your job, and then you're going to make sure that you prioritize the rent or the mortgage. Make sure you prioritize the utilities. Make sure to prioritize the food costs and all of this so you don't accidentally spend things on the money that you needed for your needs, like food, shelter, and all of this, medical care. And you haven't accidentally spent that on wants. And I think that that's the real struggle in life. And I struggle with this every year myself in terms of really being able to be brutally honest with myself and saying, is this a need or is this a want? And being very, very strict with myself. I had to do this recently, to be honest. I had a TV that I had my eye on in the Black Friday sale. I was all excited about it. And then a need came up because a refrigerator died. And so I was like, okay, fine, whatever. So unglamorous, but I guess I will spend on the need, which is the refrigerator, and wait on the want for another day, because while I can manage without a TV, I can definitely not manage without a refrigerator. And the funny part was I had already donated our old TV. And so it just was one of those things where you have even like things in mind that you've budgeted for to spend on wants. And then one of your needs comes and says, hello, you're actually going to spend on me this month. And I don't care what your wants were because this is going to be your number one priority now. And so it's funny how life is that way, isn't it? Where you have everything all mapped out nicely and then something comes up. And I mean, what is that saying? Life's what happens when you're making other plans. I love that saying because that is just me to a T. I have my whole like life planned out between now and 100 and then life happens. So it is quite funny that way. But if you're a planning oriented person like I am, I'm sure you can relate to this as well. And then the third habit is incredibly simple here, and this will really help move the needle on your wealth journey. Of all the different things that you could focus on with your money, pick one thing that is most relevant to you right now, one metric, and really hone in on that this year. I'm not saying ignore everything else, but pick one data point and track it all year. And that will really help you see kind of where you're starting and how far you've come by the time we get to the end of 26. So for example, your goal might be to pay off XYZ amount on your mortgage. And so then you would be tracking your mortgage amount as it goes through these different payoffs, and you'd be saying like how much is left on your mortgage and so forth every month through the end of the year in 26. And so perhaps it's something else, but just having one number that you focus on and feeling like, instead of feeling like you have to get everything right this year and figure everything out. I mean, that never happens in any single year. We never get everything perfectly right every year, but really to have one metric to focus on, that will help you feel a sense of accomplishment and achievement as well. If you're just focusing on one thing instead of focusing on, say, 10 different things, and then just feeling very distracted and very overwhelmed. Because I think that's one of the challenges with finances is it can be very overwhelming. There is a lot going on. And I always say, please reach out to a good financial team if you're needing support. You know, go hire an investment advisor, go hire a financial planner, speak with a retirement planner. Like, don't try to DIY this all yourself, because those professionals have literally decades of helping people navigate like sticky situations, difficult decisions, and kind of this ultra long-term planning that goes into, say, retirement planning. And so don't try to do it all yourself either, but just for your own purposes, if you pick one metric that you want to focus on this year and track it throughout 2026, then you'll be able to look back this time next year and say, hey, look at how much I paid down on the mortgage this year extra, or like whatever your goal is. But then you'll be able to have this real sense of accomplishment, feel like you've actually moved the needle on paying down debt or on whatever goal you have, instead of feeling like you're kind of at the same place you were, you know, a year ago and haven't made a lot of forward progress. That can be discouraging. So just having a way to track things and measure them and just focus down on one metric at a time can be really, really helpful. So again, those 3 habits are to create a money workflow instead of just setting vague goals for the year or the month, to assign every dollar a job before you spend it, and then to focus on only one metric or one key metric throughout the year to be able to track your progress. And having these micro habits might seem overly simplistic, but research shows that having micro habits that you can really break down into actionable steps really actually helps you move the needle, helps you move forward, because it really cuts through all the busyness of overwhelm that can happen, especially around complicated concepts like finance. So if you enjoyed this video, I have another one that I would love to share with you as well. I will put it up on screen and I will look forward to seeing you there.